my answers are unfortunately slightly unrehearsed, but I will try to give you a kind of understanding from my perspective as a young person who does want to go into politics, who's very ambitious, but also who is an immigrant herself. Just to give you a bit of information about me, I am 23 years old. I'm actually a law graduate, and I've recently been involved in a national advertising campaign by Vinspired, which is the National Volunteer Service. And there it is. Some of you might have seen me in the train or in the Guardian or something like that, but for those who haven't, Vinspired is literally an organisation that tries to help young people to volunteer and to benefit their communities. I actually got involved with Vinspired for a number of things. I've been volunteering for possibly 6 years. But one of my projects was to go to Iraq and to shoot a documentary and to deliver humanitarian aid during the war. And that was in 2007 and 2008, and it was specifically a very dangerous thing, and I nearly died literally 3 times whilst doing that. But the journey in itself was something that I would always look back on and always feel very, very content and happy that I did it, even if it meant that I might have survived in that pursuit. And the reason why I mention this is because, number one, immigration is a wonderful thing. And I'll tell you why it is, because it reminds us of the wonderful democracy and the wonderful benefits that this country has. Immigrants who come to this country are coming with the hope that they might be part of the prosperity of this country. So it reminds us that, in fact, this country has so many benefits that everybody would want to be a part of. I don't know how to put this in here, so I'm just going to, Thank you. That many young people, that many ambitious people want to be a part of. They've come, for example, from India, from Iraq, from wherever, to be a part of this country. So we should feel very content and very proud that immigrants want to be here, because it reminds us specifically that it is a democracy that we want to be involved in. And so let us not forget that immigrants who do come here have faced a lot of challenges. They face, for example, perhaps they might be exiled, like my family were exiled, unfortunately, due to the fact that I'm part Iranian, and I don't know if you know about the history of Iraq and Iran, they didn't have a very good relationship. So it reminds us that, yes, it is a wonderful place, the UK is a wonderful place, but as soon as fascist organisations like the BNP start to step in, immigrants don't want to come here. And so that acts as an incentive and a reminder that, in fact, our democracy might be under threat. And our democracy, therefore, something that we need to protect, that we need to value, and that we need to stand up and actually speak out. And so it's up to us, and up to the young generation also, to get involved and to remind people that we need to protect our ideals. Also, I'd like to remind people, just to give a bit of a personal type of touch on things. Let me give you the example of Iraq and the Iran relationship. Now, my family, unfortunately, because from my mother's side is Iranian, so when the Iraq-Iran war came about, unfortunately, those who were originally from Iran were exiled, their lands were taken by the government and whatever. That, for example, acts as an indication of, as soon as people start to have negative ideas about immigrants, then this is the problem that can escalate, and we don't want that to happen to the United Kingdom. As soon as we get fascist organisations like the BNP being in power, that's going to have an effect on everyone, every single person here. And the reason why is because we're living in a global type economy. There are no countries, for example, America, Europe, that want to be linked with, for example, government that is BNP supported. It will have a negative reputation on the UK as an ideology, as a system. So that will have an effect on our economy. So for these reasons, with these ideals and for these ambitions and our pursuits, we must protect immigration. It's very important that we stand up. Coming to the point of those who unfortunately, for example, might be racist or unfortunately just don't like the idea of immigration, what I say to them is that they usually have fears, certain fears that come from a lack of understanding about culture, and that usually stems from the fact that there might not be many immigrants in that particular area from the UK, for example. They might be, for example, look at the BNP themselves. They usually gather support in very white areas, and the reason why they gather support there is because many white areas that specifically don't have a lot of immigrants they haven't developed any type of relationship with them. They don't know about the culture. So what they hear is essentially what might be rumoured on the streets, or they might read on a particular website that was given to them by a BNP supporter. So as immigrants and as those who support democracy, who love freedom of speech or whatever, it is up to us to stand up and say, look, I want to be part of the dialogue process. I want to be part of the process of making sure that the UK is protected. And that is up to not only, like I said, everyone here, but it's also up to people outside, the young people, to get involved. And I unfortunately find that many young people are feeling very apathetic towards politics. That is the major problem that needs to be addressed. As soon as for example, many of you might have families here, I think it's very important that you encourage your children to say, look, get into politics. Unfortunately, from my background, being an Iranian, many of my parents, or many of their parents, also say, be a doctor, be a dentist, be a pharmacist, never go into journalism, go into politics, never that, because there's a fear that they naturally have that although UK might turn into a very, dictatorship. Well, my mother often says don't go into politics, you get assassinated, which is a really scary thought, but it's a reflection of her process of her living and going through all these dangerous emotions, what happened to her. So I would encourage you as wonderful, inspirational people just to be here, to go back home and say, do you know what, get into politics, I support you fully. And I think that it's important for the government and members of, obviously the government and us lawyers, everyone in the media or whatever, to try and continuously remind young people that they can bring about a change. Now, I'm very, very honoured and very pleased also, not only through hard work of trying to get involved with Vinspired, but to be a face for young people to feel that they can bring about a change. Let me tell you this, the documentary that I made, I would send out 100 emails per week asking people to help me. And in that space of sending out 100 emails, I probably would get 1 or 2 responses. So it's not a quick thing that happens. So we must work steadily, but we must always be determined in our visions and must be motivated to bring about that change. And as soon as we start to give up hope is the moment that they have prevailed above us. And I think that is dangerous. We need to always be focused and be determined, and we will be able to bring about a change. Just as there was a great change in America, we can create that change also, so never give up. That's another very important thing. Also, we're talking about the economy and we're talking about immigration and helping the economy, but I think, unfortunately, it's been failed to be mentioned here, that ideas, passions, determinations, visions, there's no price on that. And immigrants bring that as well as other people who naturally are born here. And I think that, in fact, when immigrants come here, they come here with the hope that they can be part of society, and they're there with the intention that they can bring about a change also for themselves, but also for the community. And they've taken that struggle. So we need to pat them on the back and make them feel rewarded, because it's a hard struggle to be here. For example, with my family from Iraq, that's where I'm from, and then I was born in Algeria, and then I came here, and all through different forms to reach here. So it's up to me to help my family, but also to work hard and make sure that change can be brought about. So there is no superiority in culture. We are all human beings at the end of the day, whether you're black, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian or not. We all have the same emotions, we all have the same feelings, we all want the best for one another. And it's time for us to educate not only those who unfortunately are fearful of immigration, but also ourselves in the sense that if we want to bring about a change, we need to be positive in our actions and make sure that we are very focused on that change. And I think that the future literally lies with the next generation, and I hope that they're encouraged and supported, and I'm certain and have faith that with wonderful inspiration of people here today that we will be able to bring about that change for everyone.